welcome back to another episode of Vet Nurse Confessions. So this is episode 2, and I'm shocked that I'm actually here because I kind of assumed that after the first episode, it was just kind of going to be like my mom and like a couple of my close friends listening to the podcast, and I'm like blown away with the feedback that I got and how many times it's been listened and how many like followers my Spotify has, and I'm like totally shocked. It has highlighted to me podcasts are so popular at the moment. Like, people love podcasts, like more so than like YouTube. Like, I was like, oh, like YouTube's the best, but like podcasts are so good, and like I love podcasts now too, like just even driving or walking, and I just don't even remember the last time I listened to actual music when I was in the car kind of driving along. So I'm here with another episode. I'm gonna try and make one of these every single month, because every week. I think one a week is like ideal, so bear with me if I kind of miss one, that's my goal, and that's what I'm gonna kind of stick to, because I know like the feeling of you run out of episodes to listen to, and you're like, what else can I listen to? Like, you want to hear more, and I have a lot to say, so lots and lots of talking, lots of podcast episodes to go. First of all, I did get heaps of messages from you guys asking to talk about certain kind of topics and questions. So a really good one that I got that I kind of was like, that's a really good question. I got a message from a girl asking, how do I kind of progress my career within vet nursing? Like, she's a GP nurse working in a clinic, feels confident, has been nursing for about a year, and I understand that. I totally get that. You get to like this pace and you're like, okay, like how can I go from where I'm at now to be a senior nurse kind of thing, and kind of have as much kind of knowledge and whatnot as senior nurses that you might be working with. So there's heaps of different advice that people might give you, and I'm just going to give you what I did. I think it's really good to take advice from people that are in the position that you want to be in. Like, you wouldn't take financial advice from someone that is, not financially stable kind of thing. So instead of just taking it from some random website off the internet, I'm just going to give you exactly what I did, and hopefully that kind of helps you guys. So the first one that I did that I felt like I went to the next kind of level of vet nursing was I worked in an after hours emergency clinic. I did this for about 4 months, I think. I couldn't kind of handle it anymore, only because I was working like 6 days GP, and then I was working like on a Saturday night from 6 p.m. till 6 a.m. And I don't know why I was doing that. I think I was just bored, and I was like, I just wanted to earn money, which was great because working in after hours, it's obviously overtime rates. So it was good for that. So I was able to save, and working in that kind of situation, like, it's not GP related appointments that are coming down at 9 p.m. on a Saturday night. They're emergency critical care patients. So in those instances, you learn a lot. Like, you learn a lot, and you learn a lot in a small amount of time. So I think working in an emergency clinic is definitely number one. I would definitely look in even doing like a shift a week there kind of thing, or not doing it like full time if it's not because it's exhausting. Like, that's the main reason that I left, was because I was just like, wow, like I'm so tired, like so tired. And I love working, and I love, earning money, obviously, but I was just like, oh, this was exhausting. So I kind of did it for a few minutes, and I was happy that I'd done it. It was one of those things that I just wanted to tick off in my list of things that I wanted to do. So I got to do that, which was awesome. The next one would be definitely to look at locuming overseas. So if you're in Australia, you can go and locum in the UK. If you're in the UK, you can come and locum in Australia. And it is a super easy process. So like, for me, it was easy for me because I've got a British passport. So I could go from here to there and I could work, no stress. And you just kind of set up a bank account that clinic. So I was working for Medivet over there, and they would debit the money into a Wise account, so WISE, which is it's like a kind of like a PayPal, I guess, but it's like as if you've got a bank account in that country. So they would just debit into there. It was awesome. I would just transfer it over into Australian dollars. And so going into other clinics and kind of seeing different ways that they do things broadens your mind. Like, it just kind of opens your mind up to, oh, okay, so one clinic And I think that when you're in one clinic from, you know, start to finish, you kind of get in your head that there's one way to do everything and that's it. But there's so many different small differences, protocols that people do differently in other clinics, what I would do is, when I went overseas, I would, you know, work in a clinic, I'd be so open-minded. I'd be like, oh, this is so interesting. You guys do this way. And I found different processes that were more kind of efficient and just kind of made more sense. I'd bring them back to my regular clinic. I'm like, hey, let's try this. Like, I saw this being done. This is awesome. And, you know, that's all like growth for yourself as well, not only just your clinic. But going into another clinic, you kind of just get exposed to a lot more, and you kind of are thrown into not just the way that one vet works, you're kind of opened up to a lot more. So going overseas, you can also do this within your, you know, if you're in Australia, you can locum in a different state, you can locum at a different clinic, totally fine. But I think that going overseas, you just see different breeds, different medications, different parasite control, different diseases, different kind of everything. Like, I think it was so cool, and I would recommend it to kind of anyone, any nurse that I meet. I'm always like, before you kind of, you know, settle down, or, you know, find a boyfriend and a husband and have kids and stuff like that, I think it's such a cool thing to do. And I've done it twice now, and I would do it again, but now I'm like, I'm happy I've done it. And that's another thing I've ticked off my box, and it definitely excelled my nursing. It also taught me that, like, I would walk into a clinic, and it happened both times, and even with, like we spoke about in the last episode, a bit of that kind of imposter syndrome. You go, oh, I don't really know as much as, you know, others. But I went into these clinics, and it makes you realize, oh, actually, I am really knowledgeable. I actually kind of know a little bit more than I thought I did. You know, you're not giving yourself enough kind of, what's the word? You're not giving yourself enough kind of credit. You're not giving yourself the credit as much as and that kind of helps your growth as well. It kind of reiterates that, yeah, I do know what I'm doing. I'm really good at this job. And the next one is going to conferences, as well as kind of doing like continued education. You can find courses online. Your clinic might offer like a CPD points, you know, coverage that they'll pay for you to do each year. Take advantage of that. Do some courses on the side. You can most of them are like webinars or just online things, and go to local conferences. So lots of like distributors and specialty centers will run conferences throughout the year. So next year, a really good one that like I've been to a couple times now is the VSS. Well, this is in Queensland, so this is the one that I'm familiar with, but in every state there'll be different kind of conferences within specialty centres and emergency centres. But the one in the Gold Coast, Brisbane, is next year. It's in like March, I think, and it's the Veterinary Specialist Services Conference, and I will be there. So if anyone is going, come and say hello to me. I'll be there with Vet One, which is my company that I work for at the moment, doing content creation and education. So we'll be there. We'll have a big stall. It's going to be awesome. I'm really excited to kind of meet everyone there. So coming along to those as well, they've got a veterinary stream for the vets, and then they've got a vet nurse stream. So you can go into all these kind of sit down speeches and conferences and whatnot throughout the 2 days, and they're on different topics. They'll do like some on like everything, like there'll be some on kidney disease, there'll be some on cat friendly handling, there'll be everything. It's such a cool, and it's so cool going to those as well, because you kind of get to network a lot. You see a lot of your kind of veterinary equipment and supplier reps and things like that there, and lots of stalls, and it's really cool. Like, so your clinic might pay for a couple of your nurses and your vets to go each year. I would definitely put that forward and ask them if you can go. And obviously this is in Queensland next year, but they're all over, they're all over Australia. So just kind of monitor for them. Your like local vet specialist will usually kind of promote those a lot. So just check on their Facebook, check on their website, and just kind of look out for those, and definitely sign up for those where you can. I think that is a great way to kind of extend your knowledge. So I think there are a couple of really good ways to kind of step up into that next level of vet nursing. Another while I think of it, is, and I think a lot of clinics don't do this enough, is set out a structured like career growth plan. And I know like lots of people think just for vet nursing, you get to vet nursing and then you can get to practice management and then that's kind of it. And it shouldn't be like that. And even if it is, that's totally fine. But your manager, which I think is a really good idea, and I would do this now, is sit down with each staff member and go, hey, where do you want to be in 2 years within this clinic? Where do you want to be within 5 years? And it kind of makes you think, oh, okay, where should I go? What should my plan be? And that might be in 2 years, I want to be in a more senior role. And in 5 years, I want to be maybe, possibly looking at like a management role, or, you want to go into a specialist center or an after hours, and kind of sit down and make that growth plan, because then it puts into your manager or your practice manager's mind that that's your plan, which kind of helps with the whole clinic growth as well. So I think that having that conversation is really important, and that's going to help with you as well, just having a bit of structure as to where you see yourself going. I was reading a magazine the other day actually, and it was like a vet practice magazine, and I saw this study and I was like, oh my God, this is so true. So it was talking about dogs that are like, how you've got brachy dogs and then you've got like normal snouted dogs. And it was talking about how brachy dogs, people love bulldogs and Frenchies and anything with a snub nose, because they essentially need human help more than like a long snouted nose. For example, a long snouted dog can find if there's a tennis ball behind the couch, it's probably going to be able to get to the tennis ball way more easily than like a big large bulldog. And so what happens is a bulldog will look to your human, they'll look to the human to get help. They'll look at you and they need you to help them to get that tennis ball. Whereas another dog, like a Kelpie or something, would just kind of just get it on its own. It's independent. Whereas a brachy dog needs human help. And so we as humans relate that to them kind of needing us. And it's like they're like a baby, like a human baby, they need you. And that's, you form this kind of relationship where they depend on you for everything. And that's why we love babies so much. And that's why we like them so much. That's why people kind of treat bulldogs and Frenchies and Bostons and, flat dogs like babies. And I was like, oh my God, like that's why I love Daphne and I loved my French bulldog Bosley, because they literally needed me, and that's why I loved them so much. I just thought it was one of those articles that I read and I was like, oh my gosh, I just love that so much because it's so accurate. And like a Kelpie just doesn't really, they'll just kind of fend for themselves, but I'm like, I want my dog to be helpless without me, which is awful, but I just kind of love that. That's another place as well, vet magazines that you might get, like your clinic will usually have like a subscription to, and they'll get delivered to them like every kind of month or so. In there, they'll have highlighted a lot of kind of courses and webinars that will be coming up. So monitor that as well for different kind of extended continued education opportunities. Another thing that I saw this week, literally this week, and I was like, I'm going to talk about that on the podcast. And it was, and I think vets and vet nurses and everyone in the vet industry should support each other online. I think it's the most important thing. I think that it's getting to the point where it's a bit of like people doing stuff just for likes. I saw someone kind of share a conversation that they had got. So this person was in the vet industry and they print screened and shared a conversation. Like someone had messaged them asking for a little bit of advice. And in the caption, they were kind of saying like, not slamming, but kind of, putting this pet owner down, like saying that they've done the wrong thing by messaging someone. And I totally get it. We go, God, like someone from school messages you, like, and you get the whole, hey, I know we haven't spoken in ages, but I've got this dog. What do you reckon? And, we all get them. We all get those messages. That's just life. If you're going to, put on your social media pages that you're in the vet industry, you're going to get it. You're asking for it pretty much. So I think that we just kind of need to be careful and like draw the line as to how far we go with kind of not shaming, but I don't know what the word is, but just kind of, I think we need to have a little bit more compassion towards these people. You know, someone that is not in the vet industry is as uneducated as you would have been when you were 16 in regards to the vet industry. You know, would you at 16 have known that an animal can't have antibiotics without a prescription? Probably not. You know, these people that haven't gone through the education that we have, they don't understand it. They don't get it. And I think we kind of forget that. And we just go, oh my gosh, this person is so stupid for asking this question. But they just generally don't know. And if someone messages you asking a question, hey, my dog has this rash, what do you reckon? It's innocent. And at the end of the day, they're just trying to help their dog. Like, and that's I think is the most important thing. They are just trying to, you know, get some help for their pet. You know, they might be financially constrained. They might have, you know, we don't know what's going on in their lives. So I think it's really important just to kind of be a little bit more empathetic towards people in regards to kind of if they message you. I think the best thing to do is always to be empathetic and show, you know, that you care, but then guide them in the right way. You know, you would say, hey, like, oh no, you poor, you know, someone's, you know, say a dog has got a cut on its leg. I would say, oh no, like, that looks so sore, the poor thing. I would definitely get in contact with your local vet, because it might need looking at, and just kind of steer them off in a positive way, instead of kind of, hey, that's illegal, or I can't tell you, or they don't know that. I think that that's really important. And I just wanted to kind of highlight that we need to look at it from a different aspect, instead of, oh, this pet owner is so stupid for messaging me on a Saturday night. Look, they don't know. It's an innocent message. Let's just kind of chill for a minute. And there's another one I was thinking about as well, is because like across my platforms, I've always posted like nursing stuff, and even kind of companies that I've worked for. And, you know, occasionally, most of it, and I have to highlight this, that probably 95% of the time, it's pretty positive, which is awesome. And like 5%, I'll see a comment and it's like, oh, they should have been endotracheal tubing. Oh my God, that is the worst grammar I've ever used. But they should have used a smaller endotracheal tube, or they should have used a laryngoscope, or why is that cat being scruffed? And we just have to remember, guys, that if you aren't in that clinic at that time, you have no idea what's gone on in that situation. You have no idea, and you would have experienced this too. So let's just have a think before we're throwing out these horrible kind of comments to each other. Let alone, you know, we get clients abusing us and things like that here and there, you know, disgruntled pet owners, which, you know, happens time to time. But then to be attacking each other, let's chill. Like, that upsets me, and I go, come on, guys, we're on each other's team. Let's just be nice to each other. So just always think before you send a comment, write a comment, you know, la-di-da. Let's just, you know, pump each other up. And most I have to say, most do this, which is amazing. And I think that we have built such a good community, and I think we can only go onwards and upwards from here. I think that the vet industry is finally getting more notice and appreciation, so we can only go up from here. So we just need to all stay on the same page, which I think is really important. So my mum's dog has heart disease, has heart failure. She called me the other week, right? And I was driving to work, and my mum calls me and she goes, oh, I'm going to take Tinkerbell and Tinkerbell is a 16-year-old, you know, Maltese Shih Tzu. She's deaf, blind, and she's still kicking. You know, Maltese Shih Tzus, all these little crossbreed fluffy, white, fluffy dogs, they literally live forever. Like, this dog is like invincible. She's never had any issues. Like, she had one dental with a couple of extractions like a year ago. That's like it. This dog has been, except when I was younger, she was like 6 months old, she did chew my GHD straightener cord in half, and she electrocuted herself. She was totally fine, but she did get a good zapping. And my dad was able to fix the GHD, thank God. And then, so she calls me and she goes, hey, yeah, I'm going to take Tinkerbell to the vet tomorrow. I've been able to book her in. I was like, oh, what's going on with her? And my mum goes, oh, I think she might have like a collapsing trachea. I'm like thinking, oh, it's pretty uncommon for, you know, a dog that age to get it now, but, you know, definitely could be. I was like, what are the symptoms? Like, what is she doing? She goes, oh, she's coughing a bit and she's panting a lot. And I was like, oh, okay. To me, I just instantly go, oh, it sounds like maybe like a heart issue. And with her age and breed and that, I was like, that could kind of but might not be anything like that. But I was like, okay, let me go and I'll check on her on my way to work. So I drove to my parents on my way to work and I went in and checked her and I could see her out the back. Like I went inside and she was out the back just on her little bed and I could see her belly going up and down. So she's panting in her sleep. You know, not panting in her sleep, her respiratory rate is fast while she's asleep. So that would be, we call that a resting respiratory rate, right? So she's really heavily breathing when they're sleeping. So when they're asleep, their resting respiratory rate should be about, and definitely fact check me on this, I'm pretty sure it should be like 16 to 24 or 16 to 20. You know, it should be quite low. And this was like 60. So it was up there. And I was like, oh, she doesn't seem right. And so I go out there and I check on her and she's still really panty. She's really and I'm like, okay. And so I called the vet and I was like, hey, I took her to a local vet near my parents and they were amazing. I said, hey, my mom's booked her in, but I think we need to get her in a little bit earlier. And they're like, yep, no worries, we'll get her in. And it was a couple of hours away. So I took her to work with me and I just had her in the office and she stood up, I had her in the bed and she wasn't going well. She was struggling. She stood up and she kind of hacked up some fluid and I was like, oh, she's gonna have fluid on her lungs. But I think us as Venice, we just kind of think the worst, which I think is sometimes a good thing. Anyway, so it gets to 10 a.m. and it's her appointment. So I take her down there and the vet checks her over and yeah, she's got fluid on her lungs. She's got, a raging heart murmur. She's in heart failure. Okay, great. The vet keeps her there for the day. They give her IV furosemide, which is a diuretic. So that's to remove that fluid off the lungs, which was awesome. She spent the day there. They did some x-rays and her heart was a little bit larger. So you just, textbook heart failure. So I was like, oh gosh, she wasn't looking good. She's really thin at the moment. She's really hard to get food into because she doesn't really eat. And so I went and picked her up in the afternoon. She was better. And the next day she was better. They sent her home with furosemide and Cardisure. So she's on them. Cardisure helps with the pymabendin, helps with the contractility of the heart. So just kind of helps it pump a little bit easier for her. Got her home, got her eating a little bit. And you know what? That was 3 weeks ago and she is cracking along. She's just on her meds. She's just, trotting along. She's not, her puppy self, but she's doing really well, which is awesome. But I just guess point of the story here is that go with your gut feeling, and that is kind of some symptoms if you get a client call and they go, hey, my dog's got this and this going on, and you have in your gut, oh, it might be this. Definitely go with your gut instincts, guys. And that pet owner is going to be thankful for that. And, she's cracking along. She's on her meds now. She's had a refill and she might not live for too much longer. I think she'll probably maybe get 6 months, but that would be amazing. But, she's had an amazing life and we don't want her to suffer. And she's just kind of living at the moment. She's got a very comfortable, happy life at my parents and they look after her. So, which is pretty crazy. And I think that 16 is an amazing life for any dog. That's a crazy amount of time, which is awesome. I wanted to tell you a funny story actually about when I worked at the pet store. I know I mentioned this in last episode. A couple of funny things. And this was, keeping in mind, I worked there for a literal week. And this all happened in that 1 week. The first one was, they said to me, hey, do you mind doing the walk of death? I'm 15 years old. I've never, I just love animals. I've had, played with my parents. We had an aviary when we were little, but they're like, hey, can you do the walk of death? And I'm like, yeah, sure. What the hell is that? I obviously didn't say it like that, but I was like, yeah, of course. What's that? Yeah, so you just need to walk along all the fish tanks with a fish net and just collect all the dead ones. Okay. So because, fish die really easily, or they're just sensitive. And this pet shop had so many fish, hundreds and hundreds of fish. So I had to walk from one end to the other just going along, lifting up the lid, collecting all the dead ones. And, you know, there wasn't a lot, but, you know, every day there would be like 2 or 3 or 1. And I just thought that was so funny. And it's one of those things that I'll never forget, that walk of death. Another one was that I remember a guinea pig in there got like really sick and it wasn't eating and it got really skinny. This is, you know, in a short amount of time. And I was like, oh, it's so sad. And, you know, one day the guinea pig's there and then like one day it's not. And there was like a groundsman that kind of worked for the pet store. He was like a maintenance guy. And I'm, you know, don't, you know, quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure he was just taking them out the back and bonking them on the head or something. Like, they weren't taking them to be like euthanized. They were just there one day and then they're not there the next. And I like hated to think about it, but I'm like, oh my gosh, like that is wild. And I don't think that would happen these days. Like, obviously that was like 15 years ago, but I was just like, oh my God, like being fresh into something like this, it was bizarre. I also in that week took home a cat. It was the ugliest cat you've ever seen in your whole life. It was like a white Persian with the most squash face. And I took him home one day and my mum was like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, he was sick. That's why I brought him home. He had like cat flu. And he, you know, we couldn't have him in the pet shop with all the other kittens because it would just make them sick. So I was like, okay, I'll bring the cat home for a couple of days. I loved it. I literally loved this cat. He was all white and we called him Mr. Bigglesworth because he looked like Mr. Bigglesworth from Austin Powers. And I had him for like a week and then I took him back and he was all healthy again. He was fine. And the day that I took him in, he got adopted within like half an hour and they just kind of, I think they just gave him away to someone just in case he was carrying it. They just wanted to get him out of the pet store. And this lady came in and took him and I was in tears. I was so upset and I had literally had the cat for a week, but I was like, that is my friggin' cat. I was so upset about it, but at least he got a home, which was nice. But I really wanted to keep the cat. And I think my parents just said outright no. I don't remember. I did end up bringing a cat home to them when my parents were in Vegas when I was like 17. And the way that I got around getting to keep him was they were in Vegas for my mom's 50th. And I said, Mom, I got your birthday present. It's this cat. As if she's going to tell me to take back her birthday present. So they've still got that cat. His name is Tinder. And he hates absolutely everyone. So my girlfriend just moved to Dubai. She was like, I'm not going without my dog. She's got a 7-year-old Yorkie Terrier. He's super cute. I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. Like, what are you going to do? And she goes, well, we're going to fly him over, but I don't want him to go underneath the hull. When I tell you how much she spent on flying him over there, insane. But she loves this dog and I respect that. So not only did she she refused to send him under the hull. Like, he's a little stressy. He's an anxious little guy. You know, he's such a sweetheart. And she would have just been a mess if he had to go under the hull anyway. So there's this weird ass flight that goes from like Melbourne to Dubai. It goes direct and it's a private jet. Okay. And it goes like twice a year. It goes a week ago and it goes in like April. And you can fly in the private jet with your dog and it can sit on your lap. Like they do in Europe, you can fly around in, you know, small planes with the dogs with you. So her boyfriend was going down to Melbourne, was going to go on this private jet with the dog and fly to Dubai. When I tell you how much this expedition cost, $25,000 to fly her dog to Dubai. 25 grand. And she was like, yeah, let's do it. Unreal. I love that. And so he flew over. There's all these photos of him like on the, you know, the airstrip with his private jet, and then he flies over and she's got all these photos of him just living in Dubai and he's just there. And to me, that's crazy. Like, I think that is so cool. And the reason that I probably hadn't moved overseas in previous years was because I want to take my dog with me. Like, I would love for Daphne to have come to the UK with me and live there, but that's why I didn't move there, solely because of her. And I would have taken her there, but one, she's brachy and that's a bit scary for me, like, and lots of airlines refuse to fly brachycephalic dogs, which I understand. And two, she's had seizures before, you know, she's kind of classified as an epileptic. So imagine if I flew her over there and we get to the other end and she's passed away in underneath the hole. Like, I would never be able to forgive myself. I just physically, I couldn't do it. So doing this private jet thing, I would do that. But would I spend 25 grand on it? I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. But something to think about, and something that if you were going to do that, it's an option. And I've never heard of anything like it, but it is definitely something that people do apparently. Okay, so I better wrap this up because I'm just going to keep talking forever and ever, and I can put all the other stuff that I want into my next episode. So we're going into the Christmas week. If you are working in GP, my thoughts are with you. If you're working in emergency, oh my gosh, I don't know how you're doing it. Hang in there. Christmas is nearly here. I hope that there is less dogs eating chocolate this year, less tinsel around the cats, all that stuff. I hope everyone has an amazing Christmas. Let me know in the comments what you want to see in the next episode, and I will see you next week.